Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 12 p.m. We'll have a moment of reflection and pledge of allegiance to the flag by Trustee Matoye.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call.
Trustee Barto?
Here.
Trustee Matoye?
Here.
Trustee Crane?
Here.
Trustee Anderson?
Here.
Trustee Soilu?
Here.
Trustee Wygand?
Here.
Trustee Yelsey?
Here.
Dr. Smith?
Here.
I would like to amend the agenda to move public comment or community input on after the demographer and Spencer's comments after 7. So it would be about 7B, I guess, and then to allow more of a 7C for the board to discuss. Do I? Could I have a second?
Second.
All right. It was moved by Trustee Barto, seconded by Trustee Crane, and roll call vote.
Trustee Barto?
Yes.
Trustee Matoye?
Yes.
Trustee Crane?
Yes.
Trustee Anderson?
Yes.
Trustee Soilu?
Yes.
Trustee Wygand?
Yes.
Trustee Yelsey?
Yes. Could we ask if anyone needed to go first? If they needed to go? Yeah. I think it's great. I think I would want to hear the input and then make my comments, but just if that's a choice.
If people are on a
If people, yeah, if they were here for their lunch break and wanted to, but I don't see anybody jumping up for that, so we're good. Okay. Good.
Okay. All right. So with that, we'll proceed to item 7A, Trustee Area Boundaries Report, beginning at 12:02.
I wanted to ask Spencer to kick this off for us. We did before. We have our demographer here as well. And I just wanted to comment that once again, this demonstrates the board's commitment to hearing from in meaningful ways the community. It makes a lot of sense that if folks just got here, hadn't heard anything, this gives them a chance to be informed as they speak. So kudos to this board yet again. Spencer.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, members of the board, Dr. Smith, members of our staff and community. I deeply appreciate the opportunity to be here. This is the third time this matter has come before your board. And at this board meeting on December 7th, we had a discussion at a regular board, at a special board meeting in which the demographer was retained, and we discussed the requirements of both state and federal law to update trustee area boundaries as a result of the 2020 census. We had a board meeting at January 11th in which demographer Banuelos was here and presented a scenario for your review that would bring the trustee boundaries within the concept of one person, one vote, at the same time retaining all of the schools within the current trustee areas. So of course this has nothing to do with school attendance. It has everything to do with what your boundaries are going to look like. After comments were made, a discussion was had. It was a decision to call for a special study session in which you could again review the map, look at another map that raised certain questions and issues and changed boundaries. And then in addition, a member of the community who is a resident of your district has also submitted to the demographer 2 other maps for your review and consideration. The demographer has applied the same analysis to, in effect, these 4 different scenarios that will be up for your review. No decisions will be made today. Rather, this is in preparation of your next February regular session. So with that, a brief introduction, remembering that you all are going to follow both state, federal law, as well as traditional principles for districting. I'll turn the matter over to our demographer who has prepared an excellent report for your review and consideration. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, members of the board and executive cabinet members. Is there any way we can get the presentation projected? So
Oh.
it's just easier.
Bob, are we able to get the projector on?
Can I?
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
Would you
perfect.
put the microphone that's in front of you, just face it up
Sure.
to your mouth?
Yeah, well, we'll get there.
That's good, it doesn't have,
Okay.
it's directional, so if it's over there and you're over here, we won't hear you.
Okay. Okay, so today, as council noted, we're going to be going over the data for the 2020 census. We're going to do a review of the first scenario presented, and then we're going to talk about the next 3 scenarios that were up for consideration as well. So considerations in drawing the trustee areas, and what does that mean? So the first 2 points are mandatory. It's each area shall comply with nearly equal number of inhabitants. That means balancing the population, complying with the CVRA. The second is to draw the lines to comply with Federal Voting Rights Act. So that means no cracking, no packing, also known as gerrymandering. The third is keeping the areas compact and contiguous as much as possible. So that means that the area cannot pull from like the northern and the southern portion and then have another trustee area in the middle. It just has to be one geographic shape. Secondly is when possible, or as much as possible, respect communities of interest, follow man-made and natural geographic features such as main streets, natural dividers such as freeways, mountain areas, and anything that can make the voters easily identify those boundaries. When possible, we respect incumbency. And then other local considerations that may arise during this process, as long as the first 2 are met. Okay, so the total demographics within the district boundaries right now is 196,117. Previously, we did a keystroke error that was changed so that the total population right now is 196,117. So over the last 10 years, there is a 3% change for a total growth of 672 inhabitants. Most notable changes occurred in trustee area 4, 5, 6, and 7, and area 3 with a growth of 9.4%. So bringing the data for the 2020 census, the current variance within the district boundaries is 14.5%, which is 4.5% above the allowable 10% threshold. Sure. So here we have the graph showing the total population and citizen voting age population estimates. So the total population estimates, the total population, that's what we use to best figure out how we're going to distribute the inhabitants equally among each trustee area. So that's complying with the CVRA, right? So it's taking the 196,117 and dividing that by the number of trustees, in this case 7. The citizen voting age population estimates is an estimate of eligible voters. These are actual citizens who are eligible to vote in elections. So here we can see within the largest protected class voters for the Hispanic Latino community, it's only 15.7% of the 49,065 inhabitants. So it's about 22,000 roughly that are eligible to vote. In comparison to the white demographic, 72.3% are eligible voters, followed by the second largest demographic, protected class demographic for the Asian community at 8%. So the first one is the total population, and then the second one is the citizen voting age population estimates. These are your eligible voters, and that data is what creates or may create possible majority protected class areas.
And I don't know if you're finished with this slide, but before you go to the next one, Trustee Anderson had a question.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if we were waiting to the end. I had a question about this slide. I was wondering, I noticed on the bottom of the initial slide that we got, I got it. I can hear myself in there. Thank you.
Yeah, but I can't.
So I was wondering, it said on there at the bottom, it said based on the 2019, and as we see, it's 2015 to 19. Is there a reason we don't have the 2020 voting information?
Yeah, there is. So the citizen voting age population estimates are provided by the Census Bureau, which is a American Community Survey, which is a subsection of the Census Bureau. They're not releasing that information, and there was legislation passed that in order to redistrict and to keep with the current timelines and the delay of the information in September, the information for the 15-19 CVAP information will be used for redistricting purposes.
Oh, so that's interesting to me that they wouldn't use the voter registration, because I know the American Community Survey is often not filled out by a lot of people. It seems that the voting records would be much more accurate. And then I was wondering too, it looked like there are some differences, specifically in the Black African American and the Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander categories. It looks to me that in the 2015 to 19 section, there are a lot more people who voted, which to me seems odd that the voting numbers would be higher than the total population, particularly when we've increased an African American population in our city.
Yeah, I don't know what that would look like. I don't know what your registered voters are. I just know what the Census Bureau provides, and that is the 2015-2019 CVAP data.
Yeah, it seems odd that we would have more voters than total population.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
It's not, the census is the most updated.
Okay.
But the CVAP is old data.
Just made note of that. Okay, so here we have a picture of your current trustee areas. So this was drawn in 2018. And then here is the demographic breakdown. Again, the total population is 196,117. The ideal trustee area size is 28,017. So that's the total population divided by 7. And then we have the total variance at 4.5%. So the way the variance is calculated is we take the most populated trustee area and get the difference of the least populated area, and we divide that by the ideal trustee area size to give us the variance. So here we see again that the variance is 14.5%.
Do you mind, I'm just going to ask the trustees before we go on to conceptual if they have any questions so we can make sure we're sticking to topic. Did anyone have any questions on current trustee area? Thank you.
So here is scenario 1, which was previously presented at the last board meeting. This one provided minor boundary adjustments just to bring the district back into compliance. Let me go ahead and highlight if it works. Oh. So the changes occurred here. Trustee area 5 was decreased, and then trustee area 7 increased to include that section. And in terms of balancing the population, trustee area 7 also increased here and decreased area 6. Additionally, area 7, which had area 3, which had the most growth in this portion here, that one had to be reduced and increased by area 5, which is neighboring it, to balance that population. So the purple outline here shows you the current trustee areas, and then the color overlay shows you where those changes were made. Here we included a scenario 1 just with the census block. The census blocks are the blue ones, so you can see the difference between the actual streets and what the census blocks actually look like as an overlay in the district boundaries. This is just for review purposes, nothing else to explain here. So here we have scenario 1. Previously we were asked to include school boundaries, so we did that. Here's scenario 1 with an overlay of the current trustee areas and then the high school boundaries, and scenario 1 being the color-coded areas. Here we have scenario 1 with middle school boundaries. The middle school boundaries are in the red. And then again, the current trustee areas are in the purple. And here we have scenario 1 with elementary school boundaries. And here we have scenario 1 with area 5 zoom where the proposed changes are occurring. Again, we can see it between area 5 and then area 3, how this area, just this portion here, increased by reducing area 3 and increasing area 5.
Thank you.
Trustee Crane, this was your question from last time. Did you have any additional questions on this one?
No, I just wanted to, it wasn't clear which neighborhoods were being affected, and so this is a much better map. Thank you, Angela, for this. Thanks for checking in with me, Michelle. Trustee Bartow.
Thank you.
And then here we have the second zoomed in section for area 7 with the proposed changes by decreasing area 5 in this corner. Again, to balance the population and just make this area a bit more compact and contiguous. And then additionally, this area here was to balance the population, and down here was, again, balancing population.
And Trustee Anderson, did you have any questions on that section?
No, thank you. You answered them last time for us.
Thank you.
And then scenario 1 has a total variance of 4.8%. And no majority protected areas were created. However, we do have a plural area for the largest protected demographic under trustee area 7. So what a plural area is when a protected class total population is above 50%. However, it doesn't qualify it as a protected majority area because the eligible voters are not above 50%. So the CVAP here is 40.5%, and then it seems like it's between 9% and then all the way to 20% in the next areas. So here we have scenario 2. This was drawn in consideration of some board members' suggestions in terms of increasing some boundaries up north in trustee area 7. So the changes here are very minimal to what was previously presented, but so this area between 5 and 3 remain the same in terms of where those dividers are. And then area 7 increased just to where the golf course is, up to that natural main street divider up here. This square remained in area 1, and then changes occurred in area 6 and 3, and then 1 and 2 to bring the variance and the population balance back into compliance. So here we have the scenario with, again, the census blocks just for review.
Trustee Crane had a question.
I have a quick question. For Area 7, what is that street that is at the northeast end of, is that
I have zoomed in versions, so once we can get the north version of, I think it's like by Joanne Street.
yeah, so
It's Wilson.
Yeah, I think it's Wilson.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Wilson is like right this line here.
It's
This
north
is
of Wilson.
Yeah.
It's north of Wilson.
It's north of Wilson.
So this one up
It
here,
butts
right?
to Estancia.
The boundary or where the line is?
Where the
Green. Where the green is.
The blue section?
basically, if you're looking at the north end of Area 7, that's, yeah, right there,
Yeah, I'm getting Joanne Street.
Joanne Street?
Up against the fire station.
So it's not
and
Wilson.
Estancia wall.
Okay, thank you.
So here we have scenario 2 with high school boundaries. High school boundaries are in the blue, and then current trustee area outline is in the purple. Scenario 2 with middle school boundaries in the red. Scenario 2 with elementary school boundaries.
And Trustee Wygand had a question.
Yeah, I think it's just a general question. I don't, it could have been on any of the scenarios, but so in area 6, there's 2 areas I wanted to see if you had looked at and reasoning in some of your scenarios here. So we have area 6, and then you have area 7, and as you were talking about natural barriers and things, there is the 55 freeway that goes between. See that other like what is the color of area 6? You would call that Manila orange. I don't know what you call flesh.
Orange,
I don't know.
Beige.
Tan.
Tangerine.
Tan. Yeah. So it's like a triangle where you see Bernard Street and College kind of there, and then you see that blue,
Right.
and that's all on the other side of the 55 freeway. That this is a boundary for elementary boundaries, and you can see how that would be, part of another elementary school. I think it's College Park.
It's College Park.
Yeah. And so question, that area, in scenario 1, you looked at kind of splitting it and giving some to area 7. Didn't know why that whole area wasn't given to area 7. And then if we look at, so that's one question, and do you want to answer that?
For
before?
scenario 1 or 2?
Just in any of these scenarios.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to keep the natural boundaries that were implemented in 2018. So there's 2 different things that are going here is the redistricting process where we adjust the numbers to bring it back down on the variance. And then there's something else called reorganization. And the county committee and maybe a lawyer would decide on, or an attorney or a judge would decide what constitutes reorganization and redistricting. So what we're informed is redistricting is minor boundary adjustments, keeping them within their current areas, and then just rebalancing the population. When we start moving trustees around and areas where they're no longer within their same kind of features of what was implemented, then that constitutes reorganization and may open up for litigation.
Right. And I'm not suggesting that at all with that section.
So I'm just not following exactly.
Okay, so if you see where there's like a natural looking triangle right there. Yeah, you've got the laser pointer. Yeah.
With the elementary school boundaries, correct?
With elementary school boundaries, and if you take that blue line that is, say, the longest line of the triangle, say C, that would be, that is the 55 freeway. So if we're looking at like natural boundaries, that's one of them,
Right.
for instance, that you have used along the other section of boundaries.
That was a question in 2018.
Yeah.
Right. It's one of those things. I mean, to me, it's different elementary schools, it's different junior highs, it's different high schools, and the communities are completely different. So it impacts communities of interest and natural boundaries. So to me, I absolutely agree.
So if we're looking at the current trustee areas, we're talking about this section here that was implemented in area 6. So why did we keep it that way? Is that what the question is?
Correct. And I wasn't here in 2018, so I don't know why it was done that way in the beginning, but I just wondered.
We kept it that way, again, because we're just trying to do the minimal boundary adjustments. But if that's a concern of the board and of the community, we can definitely look at those options.
The only one that does
I don't, what would that, can you see how that would rebalance things or what that would look like? How many voting?
Oh, we would have to create a scenario where that happens and then just figure out how many voters or actually total population are within that demographic, that area, and see what that would look like if it would constitute going to area 2, area 7, or area 6. I can't say off the top of the map what that would do. I actually need to go into the software and create that scenario.
Okay. So in all these scenarios, we're just looking at picking off just a little bit, couple census
I can speak for the
areas.
first 2 scenarios. That would be minor boundary adjustments where we're trying to, again, bring the balance back, rebalance the population below the 10% variance.
Okay.
Scenario 3 and 4 were submitted by community members, a resident. So I cannot speak to what the considerations were for those. I can just present them to the board.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to understand that. Thank you.
Trustee Crane and then Trustee Anderson? Or is that an old light?
Old one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, mine's all.
Okay.
All right, thank you. We can proceed.
Okay, so, so here we are. So here we have a zoomed in side of Area 3 where the proposed changes are, which is up here in this northern part where Area 3 decreased, Area 2 increased, Area 3 increased and decreased Area 6. And then Area 4 took a portion of Area 3 again to balance the population. Here we have that same section, Area 5, where that proposed change up here happened. We're decreasing Area 3 and increasing Area 5. And here is a zoomed version of Area 7, where we kept the natural line that was established in 2018 and increased the boundary up here and then decreased in this section, providing those areas to Area 5, and then making that lower portion a bit more compact and contiguous to the boundary.
Is there a reason why on this one it didn't go to the west rather than south into Newport? Because there's that one rectangle at the bottom or square at the bottom is a large senior living community. But 16th Street is the border, and a lot of 16th and 17th is industrial. So to me, it would make more sense if the left portion that's currently part of Area 7 were included, but the bottom went to 5.
And to clarify, this is the scenario submitted by a community member, so.
No, this is
No,
scenario
no,
2.
that's two.
No,
I'm already
scenario
moving ahead.
2. So the suggestion was to, most notably, was to bring the boundary up to the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So in doing that, the population here in these census blocks are dense. So we have to, at that point, start taking out of the current existing area. So if the request is to bring the boundary up to the top, then the removals happen around it to where it could just still continue to keep that area compact and contiguous. But we can certainly bring the border to where it needs to on 16th Street, right? But then
17th.
17th Street.
So like right up is 17th. So that's why to me it would make more sense if that in all four maps area the bottom is going into Newport in an industrial zone, and it just, so I think I would like to see a scenario where we went more west on, or to the left, rather than continuing. Map 4, I believe, goes even further into Newport into a weird stretch. So I'm not sure why the bottom keeps getting adjusted on these or staying there rather than the left side, which a lot of the yellow section is Victoria Elementary, which is
Sure.
a community of interest.
So let's move to the demographic table, and then we'll talk about why those changes were made and the way they were. So within Trustee Area 7, more specifically, we were trying to create a protected majority area there. So the density in the Hispanic Latino community, and based on the CVAP, was more dense in those areas. So we were able to bring the CVAP up to 44.9%. However, if the boundary moved east or west, the CVAP for the Hispanic Latino community was diluted by the amount of voters that are non-Latino Hispanic voters. So if we go back on the boundary, so this area, although it's industrial, there are a lot of, the amount of voters here diluted Area 7 to I believe it was like slightly above 30% CVAP.
Oh, wow.
That much of a variance there.
Yeah.
That's so, because there's not a lot of people there, so that's interesting.
But they put those condos in. I think that's why.
Yeah, the 2 buildings.
Yeah, they're pretty dense with voters.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you for explaining. Can I?
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Thank you for explaining that, because that's very important to us. Yeah, thank you.
So here we have scenario 3, which was a resident suggestion. Again, the current trustee areas are outlined in purple. And then here we can see trustee area 1, 2, 3 here, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. Here's where we're talking about the west, right? Pulling in this population. So we'll look at what happens to the CVAP on this data table. And additionally, Area 5 wraps all the way around because of the large complexity census block that's here. That wraps around all the way to like this point here for Area 6. And then you have Area 3 here.
The people that live on the back have no idea who their representative is.
So here it is with the census blocks, and then you can see it's just a large census block here that is purple, very vaguely.
And selfishly, I mean, this would be one that would be a hard one for us to, because then my residents would be moved into Carroll zone, and I think that's something we look at, right, is that we aren't redrawing.
And mine would as well. Can we ask who the resident is?
Are we allowed?
Should be.
I mean, is it someone involved in boundary changes or?
Well, if I may, I was asked that question previously. I communicated with the individual and have not heard back from that person.
Spencer, would you mind
may.
getting closer to the
Yes,
microphone?
of course.
Thank you.
Thank you for reminding me of that. So in answer to your question, I would respectfully submit until that individual indicates that he or she wants their name disclosed, I would prefer not to. And I would say the reason why is I think the map ought to stand on its own merits with respect to this scenario and scenario 4, as opposed to, is it someone we know or we don't know? Is it from an organization or not from an organization? That way, we are reviewing it for what the map is and what it shows. And I would say that this individual does live within your district. And for now, I would leave it at that because the individual so far has not indicated to me that they want their name disclosed.
And it would be fair to say, however, that likely this person, I don't know who they are, is someone with a perceived knowledge in this area. It's not, you know,
That is,
my mom trying to draw.
I would stipulate it, it's not your mother. And furthermore, this individual does have experience and was also participated in public hearings back in 2018.
Okay, thank you.
But
Trustee Anderson had it.
as Trustee Bartow said, if we were voting on and accepting this area, it would eliminate 2 board members here.
So Trustee Anderson and then Trustee Crane.
Yeah, I think for me, I have concerns about if one resident is submitting 2 maps and other people in the community did not realize that they could submit maps. Maybe people in the audience today are thinking they're getting information today, and then that would be part of the process. I just, particularly if someone's not willing to disclose their name, but we're giving them so much credence that we're voting on 2 of their maps. We will be. I have a lot of concerns about that. I think we as trustees weren't like, here are my options for maps. We didn't get to do that. So to give one resident the option to do that, to me, is a little strange.
You are not necessarily voting up or down on this map. This is a map that's been submitted. It's a public meeting. My advice has always been, if we get a map, we're going to have the demographer look at the map and present the map to the public for the public consideration. So again, my advice would be you look at the map on its merits. If other people wanted to submit maps, they may. That does happen. We read about somewhere where they had 9 maps going or something like that. So that was my decision as legal counsel to take the information and to request the demographer to look at it in the same fashion that the other maps were looked at, so that someone could not claim, well, my map did not get consideration. And that's the rationale behind this presentation. You don't necessarily vote up or down on this map. Ultimately, you will be deciding on a map, and that decision may take place at your next regular board meeting, but it must take place before February 28th.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Trustee Crane, and then I'll make a comment.
Yeah, just for the record, I have great hesitation in having a resident turn in 2 scenarios without the willingness to divulge who she or he is. I think that as we're stewards of kids, and if we can't make decisions based on transparency, then there's a little bit of a concern. We have to always be sure that we understand that we're here for the public good. And my flag is up. It's like, what's the intent of this person that is not willing to divulge and be truthful to us and the public, and even, be here today to explain and justify their maps? Thank you.
And I will just add in then, Trustee Matoye, that I appreciate the effort that someone went through to, based on their experience, to submit a map that they thought was fair. But I too would just, if you're going to submit something, it'd be nice to know who is submitting it. But I do appreciate that we're offering that transparency of evaluating information from the public transparently as submitted.
And my understanding wasn't that the public person said they didn't want their name disclosed. You asked knowing we were having this meeting and they haven't gotten back to you. Is that correct? Has it been like 4 days and they haven't gotten back to you, or like, oops, let's check and they haven't gotten back to you?
The inquiry was made to them today. One reason why I went to the back of the room was in case that person came, so I could, ask that question. But it's not like they've been waiting for 4 days. That was an email I sent to that individual this morning.
And when that person responds to you, you'll let us know what the response was.
I'll be pleased to.
Thank you.
So just to clarify then, are other residents able to I think we're already against such a tight deadline, but I just wanted to clarify, so then any other resident can submit a map. And do they go to Spencer? I think even the process for how someone would get a map to the appropriate person hasn't necessarily been clear. So if someone in the community were submitting a map, do they submit it to the superintendent? What does that process look like?
And then superintendent comments next.
Certainly. The map was submitted to the district. I received a copy of it. It also, I believe, went to the superintendent, went to the PIO, and then upon receipt, then I'm the one who in turn forwarded it on to the demographer for the same analysis that you've seen before.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent.
Just related to the concern about the identity, the individual too asked if they could come to the meeting in advance of the meeting this week. So they were aware that there was a meeting and that they were allowed to come to it. They were answered in the affirmative.
Okay, Trustee Anderson? Okay, Old Light. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we can move on.
Okay, so in continuation of scenario 3, so we also can see based on these census blocks that area 3 also wraps around all the way over here to area 5. So it's like there's this little portion here, and then area 5 somehow makes it all the way over here. So for what it's worth, scenario 3 also has the overlay of high school boundaries. And then again, the current trustee areas are in purple. Scenario 3 with the middle school boundaries. Scenario 3 with elementary school boundaries. And then here we have the zoomed area, area 1 and 2 of the proposed changes. So that occurs here in this area, down here, taking away from 6, and then 6, taking away from area 3, and then increasing 6 to the east. Area 7 stops here at this portion, which I believe is Senate Street. And then it just wraps around this way. Here's the proposed zoomed in area 3. Here we talk about how area 5, the census block here, kind of splits in this portion here. And then area 3 wraps around area 5 here. So area 4 was increased by decreasing area 3. And then Area 3 was expanded and then kicked Area 4 a little bit more to the northern portion of the boundary. Southern portion of the boundary. And then here we have a close-up of Area 5, and then those proposed changes, as we can see here, this is the natural boundary, well, the established boundary for Area 5. Here we can see Area 3 coming in, and then Area 5 decreasing Area 6, and then decreasing Area 3 and 6 portions on this part here. We have a zoomed in portion of Area 6 and 7. Here is Area 6, which is the purple outline here, and then Area 7, which is this outline just here. Here we can see that the boundary was actually moved west, so let's look at the CVAP there. So this particular scenario has a total variance of 7.5%. And then the CVAP here is 39.7%, and then a plural district at 59.0%. Overall, the total population seems a bit balanced, with Trustee Area 5 having 4.6% more inhabitants in their area, and then Area 7 having a negative 2.3. Here we have scenario 4, which was also the resident suggestion. Here is an overlay, again with the current trustee areas, and then the proposed changes are the colors. Here is with census blocks. Here we can see that this area 3 stays a bit more compact and contiguous in this area around the water. And then with minor boundary adjustments, I believe was just with removing Area 3 from this portion and moving it back to Area 5. With high school boundaries, middle school boundaries, elementary school boundaries. And then here is a zoomed in. So it's very similar to what was presented previously to the first two scenarios. This one just here grabs a little bit more of Area 6 around this border. And then Area 6 is moved to the edge of the school district boundaries. Zoomed in Area 3, we see the change occurred in this portion where Area 3 was kept more compact and contiguous. And then this census block here kind of just brings it all the way down. Area 4 zoomed in, minimal changes to what was previously presented. Just the changes, Area 3 moved into, Area 4 moved into Area 3, and then they just kind of stopped on this natural boundary and then just kept this portion in Area 3. And then reduced and increased this portion here to represent Area 3.
Trustee Matoye and then Trustee Crane.
My question's actually for our trustees, probably Trustee Wygant. On the page 40, maybe it's not 40. Maybe it's Mrs. Crane too. I'm looking at the big map we have, and it just shows that narrow band of area that goes right around Back Bay.
Which page?
Yeah.
Actually, it's the big map, because
Yeah, the big
it shows Back Bay. Let me look and see which one of the little maps does the same
Yeah,
thing.
those are a couple streets that I don't know why they would be part of 3.
Yeah, it's page 34 that shows it.
Yeah.
So, I was gonna say, do people live on those streets that are on because I don't know whether they're part of Back Bay, which is next to the water, or whether there are people living in those homes.
Yep.
Which then to me, we're ignoring a completely ginormous natural boundary of a body of water.
People
Okay,
live
just
there.
checking.
Yeah, people live there.
That my sanity isn't being questioned right now. There's a big old thing. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, they.
And then Trustee Crane.
Yeah,
Well,
can you,
before we, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
this represents all of the census, so you can get up and look for these particular street areas. They'll tell you whether or not, for example, here's a big zero fashion.
Got it.
These are citizen voting age population estimates. This is the color graduated map that we use. But I'm trying to figure out where Back Bay is.
Oh, great, thank you.
Takes into account the Back Bay.
Trustee Crane.
Yes. So slide 38, can we go to slide 38 real quick, please? And then, Angela, may I use your laser? Sure. Oh, thanks. Thank you. Did I just push? Whoops. Uh-oh. So I need to go back. Okay.
What slide did you want to go back to?
38. And then it's the line, the red
Yeah.
line?
Just press and hold.
Oh, I saw it on the bottom.
Oh, you
Just
saw
have
it
to
at the
aim
bottom?
it. Just aim it towards the map. It's
Oh, I see it. Okay. Right here.
Okay.
What happened to this neighborhood over here? Does it get split up?
Split up 3 ways between area 1, 2, and
And what area is this?
40 better.
currently.
Like what neighborhood or what?
Page 40 shows it better.
They go to College Park.
The whole area is called.
So we'd be splitting a neighborhood?
Yes.
It's already, been split for the last. It's been split for the last 4 years, but instead of splitting it 2 ways, now it's being split 3 ways.
So currently, the current trustee area 1 actually keeps it together with trustee area 2. So we can see the purple outline.
Mm-hmm.
So this college neighborhood is part of 2. In this scenario and scenario 2, 3, and 4, we actually split it. in
Even
half.
further?
That's a no.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. And then here it's split up actually 3 ways.
Okay, Trustee Ursulou had a question.
Yes, following up on Trustee Crane's point. So maps 2, 3, and 4 split up College Park by giving me part of them, which is completely unreflective of the zone that I represent, which is Estancia and the west side. So yes, it's enough to take on Killybrook, but now adding a College Park, which is its own unique, nice, tight community that I have nothing to do with. And the trustees from Area 1 rarely have gone over there. So it's very interesting to me that those 3 maps would give me part of College Park, because that's just not a contiguous community. It shows just sort of a lack of concern for that community.
Yeah, and I can see how this happens. Like if you're only looking at the balancing the population, then you're not considering these other factors, right? Special communities, communities of interest. I can say without a doubt in scenario 2 is mostly just balancing the population, because area 7 decreased areas 1 representation. So then it had to increase somewhere else. And that was the more logical area to increase the population, reflective of the 10% variance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you. Any additional questions? And then we'll have more discussion as a sort of 7C, but we can move to comment, public comment, if people had any.
Done?
So,
Is Angela done?
okay, so here we had, just wrapping up, we had area 5, the changes, it decreased area 6. Area 3 wrapped this way through area 5 and 4. And then there's this portion of area 7 here. And then we can see that how the boundary was moved west, and then this census block here. Yeah, so this particular scenario has a variance of 8.7%. And then area 7 has a 58.6 plural district. and then a 39.3% for CVAP. Here we have like side-by-side comparisons of each scenario. So here we can see that portion is kept together. Minimal changes occurring in area 7, 3, and 5. And then here we have, this is where the kind of the split happened. We brought the border back up north to the golf course, and then had to start take some population off here, and then area 1 needed to increase the representation elsewhere, and the census blocks just didn't allow that to happen naturally here, so we did the natural divider here. So that was the logic in that one. And then here, I believe it was balancing the population. Here we provided a color graduated map of voting age population estimates. So again, these are your eligible voters, and so this is only for the Hispanic Latino community, the largest protected class voters within the district boundaries. Here we can see a lot of white, non-shading areas. So the more dense the area is, then the more people are eligible voters for that population. The lighter the area, the less dense it is. So here we can see we most notably wanted to focus on area 7, given that that was identified as a protected majority area at the previous 2008 transition. Here we can see where those areas occurred and how you can actually have like a pretty good CVAP. So when we're talking about that triangle and why in scenario 1 we actually chose to bring that triangle there, it's because it's this population density here would lift that CVAP up. So here's that triangle we're talking about. And then here's area 7. However, if we do go west, there's only, I believe, 13, or that's a 72, and then 125 here. And then, so we tried a scenario where we took this whole area and then we tried to create a area 7 off that to try to create the CVAP above 50%. However, the other demographics, again, diluted the representation for the Hispanic Latino community and their eligible voters. So it wasn't possible. So again, we can see the density spread through the majority of the district boundary. In order to create a majority protected class area there, the total population in area 7 at more than I would say more than 50% will actually have to be eligible Hispanic Latino voters. And there's just not enough to do that. So we try to increase it with scenario 2 at 44.9%. And then here we have a wrap up of the 2018 Orange County Committee on School District Organization. And then I believe Spencer's going to speak on this part.
So there was a question at our last meeting about what was done the last time around and what went to the county committee. And this was a comparison between 2 maps at the time. And there's a comparison as to what was before the board that some of you may recall, map G versus map B. And the middle bullet shows that with respect to CVAP, the population in G was 58.9%, which was greater than the 54.9% in B. And so as a result of that, the recommendation by the board was map G. And I also think it's helpful to look at the CVAP population of 58.9% compared with what you've been presented with. For example, in scenario 1 at page 13 has the number of 59.7% by way of comparison. So relatively on track with respect to both of these and consistent with what you're saying based upon the voter age population estimates. And that's why that was included.
And then just questions or I know it's a lot too.
I think we'll give everyone a couple minutes to kind of think through what we've heard, and then we'll do public comment, and then we'll go through some final thoughts and questions. Thank you. Carol, would you be kind enough to read the public comment?
Oh, yes.
This is an opportunity for the public to address the board regarding items on the special meeting agenda only. Comments on special meeting agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per comment, up to 20 minutes per topic. A speaker may not relinquish his or her time to another person.
Thank you. It's a little unusual format because this is one of the few times that we do the how and not the what and the why. So first we have 2 comments, Michelle Murphy and then Cynthia Blackwell.
Good afternoon. Should I take this off? Nope, okay. You can hear me. Good afternoon, Board of Trustees and President Bardo. I'm Michelle Murphy, mother of 2 Newport-Mesa students, currently attending Kaiser Elementary. I'm president of the Kaiser PFO and director of public affairs at Orange County United Way. I'm a longtime resident of College Park neighborhood in Costa Mesa. I'm speaking to you today as a 15-year resident of College Park, and I'm concerned about the proposed scenarios in maps 2, 3, and 4, which effectively cuts the College Park Elementary School District and neighborhood in half. It breaks up communities of interest, as well as it does not adhere to the first principle of redistricting, which is to keep districts compact and contiguous. I would also like to point out that as a candidate for school board in District 2, a former candidate as well as a current candidate, these 3 newly proposed maps would effectively cut me out of being able to run. In District 2, I would be cut out of being able to run by 2 streets. I'm not even sure if that's legal, as I've already declared as a candidate. I must respectfully ask that the board adopt map 1. As a candidate, I'm not sure that cutting me out of being able to run would be a wise decision for the board. I'm also asking, sorry, I was scribbling notes very quickly in the middle of the meeting. So I'm asking to be able to represent the full district. And speaking and working with the families at College Park over these past few years, I know how closely connected this school community is. This is an underserved school and deserves to be represented directly by one trustee that they can communicate with on a regular basis. I've been doing that and trying to help that school for the last few years and the families that are very vested in making that school an even better school. I hope you will take my concerns regarding breaking up the College Park Elementary School boundary and neighborhood seriously, as I think to do so would be a disservice to Newport-Mesa. Thank you.
Oh, Cynthia Blackwell, thank you. Sorry, I'm not used to this job yet. I'll get there.
Here's my scribbly notes that I wrote. You can see I did like she was doing. First off, these probably should have been posted somewhere. The public could have seen them before we walked in here today, just a little FYI. But maps 2 through 4, looking at them while I'm sitting here, should break at Merrimack, not where it's the new ones on 2 through 4. And because that affects both College Park and Whittier Elementary and Victoria a little bit on one corner, unless I wrote the wrong school down. Anyway, you know what I mean. There's an issue going on there. And then it was interesting that Carol and Michelle brought up the fact that, hang on, we won't even be in our districts. What's going on with that? And then I agree with Trustee Anderson and Crane that whoever put those resident maps in should be here to chat about them and say why they did it. Is there nefarious purposes going on? Because I remember very carefully in 2018 going to these big map meetings that took place, one of them being over at Costa Mesa High School, and Martha Fleur was running it. And we saw all these maps, and then it came time to vote, and a brand new map popped up. And nobody got to see that. So that was like, that kind of raised a red flag there for that. So I don't like that bait and switch kind of business. But let me see, scenario 3 and 4 also completely changes Victoria. I think they like to stick with their person they currently have, not get a brand new person in there. More time on public. Maybe these could be posted on the marquee outside, that one out there with the job postings, where people can drive up and see them because they're really hard to see. And let me see. Oh, did I understand the demographer gal to say that one of the trustees helped with map 2? Or did I misunderstand her? I hope I misunderstood her.
What did you say?
I thought somebody said that one of the trustees helped put map 2 together, scenario 2 together. And I thought, wait, what? Got myself a big note on that. And then, let me see. Clearly the only one, in my personal opinion, as a resident who started kindergarten at Kellybrook 61 years ago, so I have been around a long time, that the map 1 appears to be the best served for everybody here. We don't have Carroll and Michelle getting their area chopped off. We don't get College Park split 3 ways. I mean, I don't even know who these residents are. So anyway, I dragged myself out of my sweats today, put on makeup, got in the car and drove over here. So thank you for letting me have my time, and I know you guys will make the best choice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, we'll go back to our 7C, which is our input. And just a reminder, these will be available for the community for a week, and we are not voting on them today. So this is just a discussion of all the options available. I did have one question about the very last slide, 48. 48 and 49.
Michelle, you're out of time.
I'm out of time.
I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
That's the end of my questions. Slide 48 and 49, I wasn't part of that in 2018, so I assume that we did choose map G based on the
That is
information
correct.
here? Okay, thank you. G.
Could I ask though, to follow up on that, because this references total voter age population, but the charts that we have are total population and citizen voter population.
Right.
So we aren't presented today with what those numbers are to compare.
No, and there was an inquiry that I thought this spoke directly to. This is a document that was presented, as page 47 does, to the Orange County Committee on February 7th, 2018. I'd be glad to email that over to the superintendent's office, but I thought these were the pages that addressed the questions that were raised at the time as I understood them. And if I may, I would also like to respectfully state, so the record is abundantly clear, no trustee has participated in the drawing of any of these maps whatsoever at all. I want that to be perfectly clear.
Thank you for that note. I meant to add that, so I'm glad that you caught that. Thank you.
I wanted to clarify my question though. So do we have access to, there's 3 categories. So there's total population, total voter age population, and then there's citizen voting population, yes? Or is the voter considered the same? Because
Certainly. I believe, and I also talked with one of my partners who participated in the preparation of this, that page 49 represents CVAP.
okay. Thank you.
Were there any other additional questions regarding demographic data or boundaries that anyone had any questions on? Okay. Seeing no additional questions or comments, these maps will be available publicly, and I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. That concludes our meeting at 1:04.